Appreciate you being with us here on Birds 365. Mac, and Joe Santoliquito, old friend. Good enough to hop on board with us today. Good to see you, Joe. Where's Alabama? Are you trying to tell us?
Yeah, guys. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Yeah,
and we're just wondering, why the Alabama gear today?
I got it as a Christmas gift, and I'm a big Saban fan. I know he just retired, but yeah, I just love the program, love the players they produce. So yeah, little since I was a kid, since Bear, since Tom Clements broke my heart as a 5-year-old, throwing that pass, I think in the Sugar Bowl, I believe it was.
Tom Clements.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Are the Eagles interviewing Tom Clements for their offensive coordinator position?
Yeah.
Throw him in the mix. New ideas.
Before I do anything, let me ask the two of you, because I've been running around the last 2 days asking almost everybody that I know. Did I block you two guys did my social media block you two guys on Twitter?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not an issue on my end.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not an issue on my end.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a big deal, so you got somebody else running your Twitter.
Yeah, she's law enforcement, which I enlisted her in after the obviously the Wentz escapade, and her new nickname is Lady Block Party D. She just went nuts.
I like that.
So the last 2 or 3 days, I've been I've had like 40 people, 45 people, friends that I had to unblock. So, and the reason why I asked if I blocked you two guys,
we're good.
Block the two of you.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
Joe, let me start
I of all people shouldn't be blocked, Joe. But yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
No, we're good. Here's why I want to start with you, Joe, because I read your article and it was fascinating and in-depth and very well done.
Thank you.
About Jalen Hurts. Because I did say this last year when he signed the $250 million cut. This is not good, guys. It's different. But I said, here's my only concern with Jalen Hurts, that he's going to be pulled in so many different directions. I wasn't afraid that he was going to become a diva or anything like that, because he does have the work ethic that he has. But I just thought there was a chance that he could be like distracted by all the attention that he's getting from people outside of his own inner circle, the NFL, his agency, endorsements. You knew the Eagles were going to ask him to be a front man for a lot of things going into the season. How big a negative effect do you believe that had on his season?
I think it had a big negative effect. I think it took him out of his routine. He is an individual routine. You guys read the story, as opposed to many others that criticized the story and didn't read it. You guys read the story. Never said he wasn't a hard worker. I've said it. I've said it on the air. I've said it privately. The guy applies himself. The guy does work hard. He loves to work, and he was pulled in many different directions. It was a brave new world for him. I understand the situation he was in. What's the saying? Strike while the iron is hot. He was a hot name. You turn around, you make that extra cash when you can make it. But it also was something new for him. Do I think in the future, by the way, if he does have a situation similar to what he came off of 2022, I think he's going to be able to handle that better. I think he's going to be able to allot his time better. But I think there was a lot of trial by error this off season, and I think it's certainly something that he will correct. Jalen Hurts may be a lot of things, but one, he's a hard worker. He is someone that's a diligent guy. He is someone that I'll give him credit for this. I think he does a very good job of self-correcting, and it's something that he's had to do since his college career.
Yeah. He's had a lot of changes, and I think a lot of people compared it to your Wentz story, which, by the way, you can spike the football because everything eventually was proven to be true. So all the people saying hit piece this, hit piece that. First of all, this wasn't a hit piece. I mean,
thank you for that.
For those people, you have to read it. But from Jalen's perspective, he has mentioned a number of times I've asked him, he's still feeling out his off seasons. I think one of the improvements was going to Tom House and Adam Daydew in the 2022 off season and working on his mechanics. And I know he went back. And I bring that up because Carson Wentz did the same thing before his MVP season. And those are the guys. Tom and Adam are the guys when it comes to mechanics and modern quarterbacking. They're the best in the business. And Carson did it and never went back. I know Jalen went back, but I don't think he spent as much time. But what he has shown the ability to do is tweak his off-season routine. And I think you're right that he will do that, and he'll learn from his mistakes and he'll work diligently to improve them. My question is he working diligently enough with the people in the building when it comes to the current offense? Maybe that doesn't matter moving forward, but last season when we write the eulogy, I think he was a big part of the blitz issues. I think the quarterback was a big part of the blitz issues, and Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni got most of the blame. What are your thoughts, and what did you find out about that?
Well, talking to a defensive coordinator who had faced him the previous season and this past season, he was blown away by the regression. What had happened here is it a Steichen Brian Johnson transition. He was just kind of blown away by, here's a guy that could see things, pick things up. That suddenly he was completely blindsided with this past season. I think that's where a lot of confusion lies. I think, in my opinion, in my very strong opinion, there was a whole lot more reliance on A.J. Brown this season. As someone in the Eagles offense worded it to me, well, there were times I was open, but his first look was at A.J. If I were him, I would have looked at A.J. too, this player told me. But he didn't look for anybody else after that. It seemed as if and I have the strong impression with AJ himself, there was some frustration. I have the impression that, obviously he had that good run when the Eagles were going to him on a pretty consistent basis. When opposing teams learned and opposing teams, hey, listen, we have to add even more attention to AJ Brown, which we knew they were doing anyway. This is what we have to do to take him out and force Hurts into obviously those uncomfortable situations where he has to look for others. And there's certainly a lot of other options that are very, very quality options to go to. But he became, I think he became a little bit too overly reliant on A.J. Brown. And I think that knocked off his game a little bit. And I also think Steichen was a very strong security blanket for him. Blanket being taken away. And when that happens, I think suddenly now I'm a little on my own. Brian and I have Brian Johnson and he had a very good relationship, a strong history together with one another. But I have the impression, again, a very strong impression, I certainly wasn't in the room with this, but I have the strong impression Steichen pushed him into those uncomfortable positions. I have the very, very strong assumption that because of that, we saw exponential growth from 2021 to 2022 with Jalen Hurts. And hopefully they're going to get someone back in there that could turn around and push some buttons, someone back in there that will put him in those uncomfortable spots. What's the old saying? You don't do business for family and friends. Yeah. And that may have been the case here. I think from the impression I have from the outside looking in, and John, you would know far better than me, I think Brian Johnson's a very quality quarterbacks coach. I still have some questions as to whether or not he's a quality NFL coordinator. But, he certainly did a hell of a job with Jalen in the 2022 season as the quarterbacks coach. Do I still think, again, from the outside looking in and the situation I was in, I still think there's some fine-tuning Brian Johnson himself can do. And I also have the impression, knowing people that know Brian, I think Brian, very much like Jalen Hurts, saw some things in himself that, hey, there's some things there too that I too could have improved on.
For lack of a better term, I'm going to use it, and if you want to shape it any way you want, go ahead. This past year, good cop, bad cop, Nick Sirianni had to be the bad cop, and I don't think he's a real bad cop. But Brian Johnson wasn't going to be the bad cop in a relationship with the quarterback. Now Nick Sirianni's removed himself basically from the offense, and it's going to be all new franchise.
I don't know if he removed himself.
Well,
but,
yeah, that's
Oh, has been removed. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me, John. Good cop, bad cop. You sound like you're hoping that a bad cop comes in as the offensive coordinator, a guy who will coach him hard. Can Nick play good cop?
Nick's the personification of good cop.
Okay.
You know, he's very much a coach, a player's coach in a lot of ways. And again, in all deference to John, I have the impression, I was actually told, Sirianni did, how crazy this may sound, he did a lot more coaching this season, but he also did quite a bit of coaching the coaches. He was not only juggling the balls he had to juggle, but I'm looking here at the situation with Desai. I'm looking over here with the situation with Brian Johnson. He did a lot more. He did more coaching of the coaches, which I'm going to give Nick Sirianni the benefit of the doubt here that he was not able to put all of his functions into everything he's supposed to do as a head coach. I think we saw some things there early on, signs where we saw it, I think, in the preseason. I think there was a situation where Desai didn't have the right personnel on the field, which was an ongoing problem the whole season, offensively and defensively with this team. And I think it was Sirianni himself who had to come running across the field to say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is personnel
that was made training camp. They moved to practice to and Howie had to correct him to get it was just something that was very weird. And a bunch of us noted it at the time. The Eagles tried to sweep it under a rug. It wasn't a big deal. Yeah, I think it was a big deal.
It added up. I mean, think about the many times this season we'll go into the season opener where Jake Elliott just puts up his hands and says, this is special teams. You know, they didn't have the right personnel on the field, even though Clay did a very good job this season. I think special teams was one of the quality things they did. But then I believe again in the playoff game where was it Eli Ricks that didn't know whether or not he was on or off the field. They had to call a timeout again, and it was an ongoing problem the whole season. I'd like to believe that Nick Sirianni is as good as self-correcting as I hope and believe his quarterback is. But right now, too, I mean, guys, we're part of the ball brigade, the three of us here. I think all three of us would agree. All three of us know stability wins in the NFL, and the scary part of it right now. And the Eagles have been a decent organization in terms of stability. Now you're dealing with an organization that's going to be undergoing its third batch of coordinators in the last 3 years. I know the defense is somewhat immersed in the Fangio defense and the schemes there, but again, there's a whole new grouping of nomenclature these guys have to learn. There's going to be maybe a little bit of nuance here and there on the defensive side of the ball. And the most important thing is this: other than the defensive front, they're going to almost turn around and get a revamp a whole new defense. Offensively, you're looking at a situation where, I mean, what's the deal with the offense? As we were talking, and again, in deference to John, I would hear from people and from NFL people, a couple of personnel people that I know. Joe, you see this team, you watch this team, you dissect this team each week. Does it still have an identity? And that was the thing, too. That was mind-boggling as the season's going on. Where's this offensive identity of this team? I had a sense, well, I had better than a sense, some people on the ground floor that certainly wanted a certain type of identity. They certainly would have liked to have run the ball more than they did. There were guys, I feel there were guys that were underused. I hope they have a chance to retain DeAndre Swift. I think it was a big help to them this past season. I don't know if he's going to stay or not. We all know that the Eagles don't place value in running backs. So there's a lot of things that need to be done here. It's
And
the
by the
NFL
way,
now.
I think DeAndre, even if they want Joe, and I know you know DeAndre from St. Joe's prep days way back, I get the feeling that even if the Eagles wanted to pay him, he'd rather be in an offense that takes advantage of the running back in the passing game a little bit more than this one does.
Yeah, I
And I
got that
don't know if
impression
that
too.
changes. I don't know if that changes no matter who this offensive coordinator is, because, and Jody knows, I've been talking about this. Joe doesn't like to dump it off. You don't need to dump it off. So that limits a lot of the running backs' touches in the passing game. And I think DeAndre would like to get more involved with that. But he is a Philly guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But I I won't be surprised if it goes someplace else. I
no,
won't be surprised.
neither would I.
But there's a lot of fixing that needs to go on here. I'd like to think, these are the first steps in terms of stability. I like the fact that they got someone older in Fangio. I mean, the Eagles, think about this, the Eagles like to get the shiny new coin, and they've had a history of that. But
it's the pendulum theory, Joe. Once something doesn't work, you go the opposite direction. Now you got to see.
They had a hell of a lot of stability with Andy Reid and Jim Johnson. A lot of stability, knowing the old man wasn't going anywhere, and knowing, the guys that would come in would be immersed in a system that they knew, that they were oriented with, and you're not learning something. Again, they've been running basically the same Fangio, obviously the godfather of that bend but don't break defense type. But again, even we're getting the godfather himself with it. There's still some learning. There's still some time to teach. The other thing too that came up, and actually this came up last night in reference to Nick Sirianni to go godfather on you. I found it interesting on Wednesday that he went from Michael Corleone to suddenly he went to Fredo Corleone.
Oh, he's Fredo. Yeah, he's Fredo now. Well, that's a problem the Eagles have had consistently under Jeffrey Lurie. Once expectations aren't met, Mike Rowe was Fredo, Press Taylor was Fredo. Now it's Brian Johnson and Nick to a lesser degree, but yeah, you can't say these guys are genius, up and coming, great young coaches, really ahead of the curve, and then turn around the next day and try to sell people, oh, they're the problem. But they try. That's what they do. Kick people in the you-know-what out the door.
John, the other thing that baffles me is, I think they have a real problem. I think there's quite a bit to fix. My concern with this organization as a whole, as a culture, is, again, none of us are in that building, in those conference rooms with those guys. But the thing that concerns me a little bit is maybe they don't think there's that much wrong here. Maybe they don't.
Well, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. They're like, look at our success compared to everybody else. And to be fair, they're right, but that doesn't mean you got to be more self-aware when it comes to this particular issue, in my opinion.
And dropping and falling and going to 1-6 the way they finished. I mean, maybe there was one team at the end of the season, there was one team that was worse than the Philadelphia Eagles, and that might have been the worst team in the league, the Carolina Panthers. This was a disaster. We still don't know the situation with Jason Kelce, the ankle, that offensive line. I don't think I'm going out on a limb with this. I think Jason Kelce may stay one more year.
Hope so.
I think he wants to go out on his own. I think if he does stay, I have the utmost respect for Adam Schefter. But I think we have Adam Schefter in the bank if he does stay another year.
Yeah. Jason has changed his mind before. I do think I'm still in the camp. He's waiting for Travis to be done. He doesn't want to ruin his run. He'll do it on new heights, but I do think he's going to retire. I think Fletcher Cox might retire. By the way, keep that in the back pocket. So there could be a lot of changes at the NovaCare complex. But I hope Jason plays. He can still play. He was an all-pro.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
Play at a high level.
Yeah. So there's a lot to fit.
Joe, no, you got to run. We appreciate you jumping in here, carving out a couple minutes for us today. We'll certainly get you back up again.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
So, JD, listen, next time around, what do I need for you? For you, I will wear it. I will find the hoodie and I will wear it next time. What do you want me to go with?
The Albany Great Danes, my alma mater.
Albany Great
You know what?
Danes.
I probably can get an Albany Great Danes hoodie. They are an equality lacrosse team. I got some ins. Next time I'm on the air with you guys, I will wear an Albany Great Dane.
By the way, you got to get me some boxing swag, Joe. Yeah, something.
That's not a reach. I could do that. I could do that. My bald brethren.
You don't. I don't need any boxing stuff.
Yeah.
What is boxing swag? Gloves? Like I'm going to hit somebody? No, I'm not wearing them.
I could pick up some t-shirts and bags, stuff like that. I could do stuff like that. Yeah. Sure. So, guys, listen. Thanks again, man. And please, from both of you, for you guys, I'm on here. Utmost respect to both you guys. I think the world of both of you.
Joe, we appreciate
Thanks,
it whenever
Joe. We
you jump
appreciate
in
it.
with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
One quick note before we go to break on Jason Kelsey. This is just my personal opinion. Here's where I felt buoyed this weekend. Not only when he did it, but then when he talked about it on the New Heights podcast thereafter. He's taken off his shirt in freezing cold temperatures in Buffalo while hanging with Taylor Swift, leaving the suite, coming down, grabbing the girl so he could bring her back up to meet Taylor Swift. And then afterwards, he talks about with his brother on the podcast. It says, I informed my wife ahead of time I was going to do this. And she said, don't you dare. And he went ahead and did it anyway. Jason still likes the spotlight. He basically grabbed the spotlight by the throat and said, you are mine, spotlight.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's ready to give up the spotlight.
I hope you're right. I think but I've been wrong before. This is what he does, basically, and this is why we get it wrong, because after the season, he's always like, I don't want to go through this again.
Right.
And then you leave. Yeah, then you recharge your batteries, and he's like, he misses the locker room, he misses the cafeteria, he loves the NovaCare cafeteria. So do I. I wish I could get back into it, but and then he changes his mind. So it's always possible. But I do think he's been setting up not only his future. Part of it is the New Heights podcast. By the way, Jeff Kerr was on there this week. Jeff took a picture of his locker. So they said, thanks, Jeff, for ruining my personal time. But anyway, shout out to Jeff Kerr. He's set up that. He's also been working with the NFL and their sort of media boot camp, what they call it. He's been doing that for the past 2 years. He's got some off the field stuff he's been setting up. He's not the guy. He's not the NFL player that doesn't know what he's going to do when it ends for him. So I think he's got a plan, and I hope I'm wrong.
All that being said, yay or nay, Jason Kelsey's back next year.
I say he's not back.
I say yes. And the scales for me were tipped this past weekend in Cleveland. I was kind of sitting on the fence, but I don't think he's ready to give it up. And the other reason why I was leaning that direction is lost 6 out of their last 7. Guess what? That means Jason Kelsey lost 6 of his last 7. I don't think he wants to go out that way. He's part of it. Was he the main part of it? No. Oh my God, the Eagles fell apart because of Jason Kelsey.
Well, he didn't play. He didn't play well in Tampa.
He didn't either. Exactly. Yeah, and I don't think Jason Kelsey wants to go out that way. So
hey, I hope
you
say
right. Out, I'll say in. We'll find out. Who knows when Jason? And that's one of the beauties of the situation, Jason. And he dictates all terms. He decides when and if, and he'll do the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going, oh, Jason's going to drag the Eagles along. No, Jason will do the right thing by the Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
But he'll also do the right thing by Jason Kelsey. So he's going to dictate terms. I think he's going to be it.
And that's why, real quick, that's why you'll know it by the start of the new league year, which is March 14th, maybe somewhere in that range. He will not leave the Eagles hanging.
I don't even think it will take that long. I think he'll make the decision before after the Super Bowl, after free agency.
No, I'm just saying that's the last possible date.
Yeah, latest date. All right. Yeah. Birds fans, do me a favor. Here is your chance to save up to 40% on your car insurance. You can do that right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you do. Call managing partner Jim or Fran and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Delval Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!